Article 52 says that there shall be a President of India, and Article 53 says that the executive powers of the Union shall be vested in the President, and he is the nominal executive head. And there are certain conditions which are laid down for the President's office. So the first one is he should not be a member of either House of the Parliament or a state legislature, and he should not hold any other office of profit, and his allowances and privileges shall be determined by the Parliament, and his allowances shall not be withdrawn during his term of office. In case a member of either House of the Parliament or the state legislature of any state is elected as the President, he shall be deemed to have vacated his seat in that House on the day he enters the office of the President. And the President is entitled without any payment of rent to use his official residence. And the oath. The oath of the office of the President is administered by the Chief Justice of India, and in his absence, the senior-most judge of the Supreme Court available. The election of President is based on Article 54 and 55. So the provisions dealing with the election of the President are provided in these both articles. And the President is elected by the members of an electoral college consisting of the elected members of both the houses of the Parliament and the elected members of the Legislative Assembly of the states. So the nominated members of both the houses of the state legislative assemblies and the members of the state legislative council in case of bicameral legislature do not participate in the election of the President. So the President's election is held in accordance with the system of proportional representation by means of a single transferable vote, and the voting is done in secret ballot. And there are certain qualifications for the election of the House of the President stated in Article 58. First, he must be a citizen of India and he must have completed the age of 35 years, and he must be a qualified member of the Lok Sabha, and he must not hold any office of profit under the government of India or government of any state or under any local or any other authority. However, the following persons are not deemed to be holding of any office of profit, and hence they cannot be not qualified for election as the President. When a sitting President or the Vice President of India, or he is a governor of any state, or he or she is a Minister of the Union or of any state. And to be stated or elected the office of the President, they have to get more than 50% of valid votes are required by the President candidate, and the election of President is an indirect one. In case of any problem regarding the election of the President, only the Supreme Court is authorized to intervene in this matter, and the problem can be brought in front of Supreme Court only after the elections are over. On account of vacancies in the Electoral College, no petition can be filed, and the election of the President is declared void acts of the President until the declaration cannot be invalidated. And the President is indirectly elected because, first, in view of the adaptation of the cabinet system of the government under which the President was to form as the constitutional head of the state. By enacting the President's Pension Act of 1998, the Parliament has raised that pension from 50,000 to 1,50,000 per month, and this amount was further increased to 5 lakhs in 2018 by the Union Budget of India. And the vacancy in the office of the President can be caused by any of the following ways. The first one is by the expiry. It can also be caused by the death. And the third is by his removal by impeachment and or by their resignation. Otherwise, on the sitting aside of his election as president. In case of vacancy arising by the reason of any other cause, then expiry of the term of the incumbent in the office, an election to fill the vacancy must be held as soon as possible and in no case later than 6 months from the date of occurrence of the vacancy. It is important to remember that 6 months is the occurrence of elections after the vacancy. The powers of the president are primarily divided into executive, legislative, and emergency. So they can be broadly classified as executive, legislative, financial, judicial, military, diplomatic, and emergency powers. The executive means the Constitution vests the executive power of the Union into the President. The executive power primarily means in the legislative, the President shall have the power to summon the House of Parliament and also the lower house, and the President shall address both the Houses of Parliament assembled together at the first session after each general election to the House of the People. And besides the right to address a joint sitting of both the houses at the commencement of the first session, the President shall also have the right to address either house or their joint sittings at any time and to require the attendance of members for this purpose. Next, the financial. So money bills can be introduced in the Parliament only with his prior recommendation, and he causes to be laid before the Parliament the annual financial budget under Article 112, and no demand for a grant can be made except on his recommendation, and he can make advances out of the contingency fund of India to make any unforeseen expenditure. Coming to the judicial. Here, he appoints the Chief Justice and the judges of the Supreme Court and High Court. He can seek advice from the Supreme Court on any question of law or fact. However, the advice by the Supreme Court is not binding on the President. He can grant pardon, reprieve, respite, and remission of suspend, remand, or commute the sentence of any person convicted of any offense. Next, the military. That is, he is the supreme commander of these military powers, and in that capacity, he appoints the chief of the army, the navy, and the air force. He can declare war or conclude peace subject to the approval of the Parliament. Next is the diplomatic. The international treaties and agreements are negotiated and concluded on behalf of the President. However, they are subject to the approval of the Parliament. Next, the emergency. That is, in addition to the normal rules which are applied to the President, the Constitution confers extraordinary rules, that is, to deal with the following 3 types of emergencies. First is the natural emergency. Second, President's rule. And third is financial emergency. Next is their veto power. That is, when a bill is presented to the President after its passage in both the states of Parliament, the President shall be entitled to take any of the following steps. He may declare their assent to the bill. They may declare that they withhold their assent, and in case of bills other than the money bills, he can return the bill for reconsideration of the houses with or without a message suggesting amendment. And in that case, if the bill is again passed by both the houses of the parliament with or without the amendment and again presented to the president, he could be obligatory upon him to declare his assent to it. It is important to note that a money bill cannot be returned for reconsideration. And according to Article 63, there shall be a Vice President of India, and he occupies the second highest office in the country. The member of election for Vice President and the President is same, and the Electoral College of Vice President consists of elected and nominated members of both the houses of the Parliament. The qualification for a Vice President would be: first, he should be a citizen of India, and he should have completed 35 years of age, and they should be qualified for election as member of Rajya Sabha, and he should not hold any office of profit. Oath under Article 69 of the Vice President is administered by President and some person appointed in that behalf by him. The present salary of Vice President would be 4 lakh per month. So with this, we understood the basic information about both President and Vice President.